Welcome to Milwaukee County Parks Bumblebee Monitoring Program. We've created this video resource for those who want to participate in the program and would like to review the information covered in the orientation, or who may not have been able to attend in person. We strongly encourage you to attend the in-person session in addition to watching this video resource, as this really is the best way to get the information you need about the program. Before I jump in, I want to give credit to the Wisconsin Bumblebee Brigade, or B3 for short, which established the protocol for bumblebee monitoring that we have largely drawn from, and which accepts and verifies all the bumblebee photo submissions that volunteer monitors enter. Thanks, guys! Of Milwaukee County's green space, 75% is located within Milwaukee County Parks. The park system owns 15,000 acres, about 10,000 of which we manage as natural areas. Our park system has 3 state natural areas, 2 wetland gems, 14 miles of Lake Michigan coastline, and 85 miles of waterways. We are located along a major migration corridor, and in 2019, Milwaukee County was designated an important bird area, identifying our natural areas as vital habitat for migrating and breeding birds. So why are we monitoring bumblebees? Bumblebees provide us with valuable ecosystem services. They are very efficient pollinators, contributing to the maintenance of a healthy ecosystem. There are currently data gaps in our bumblebee knowledge, including their biology, where species are present and absent, and how they are distributed. Our Natural Areas team wants to know more about the bumblebees within our park system and how their populations are faring. Declines in several bumblebee species have been seen as well as projected in the state. Factors including habitat loss, pesticides, disease, and climate change are responsible for declining populations. In recent years, we've seen increasing public interest in bumblebees. Lucky for us, they are relatively easy to observe and photograph, which makes them a great subject for community science. And since this project is photography-based, we can survey the bumblebees without being invasive. Community science allows us to gather more data with limited funding, and it's been proven to work. You don't need an advanced degree to collect data and make an impact. Scientists and the public collaborate to build a large research team that gathers much larger quantities of data than the scientists would be able to collect on their own. Community scientists follow an established protocol when collecting their data. Scientists verify this data and then carefully analyze them to make well-informed management decisions. During this process, participants learn about conservation and research by taking part in real scientific studies. And through community science, we can increase public awareness and activity. The goals for our bumblebee monitoring program are to establish baseline data throughout our natural areas by conducting an inventory of bumblebee species, to engage the public and honor community connections to the natural world, and to protect and attract bumblebee populations using informed management strategies determined by the data we've gathered. Here's the basic layout for Milwaukee County Parks Bumblebee Survey Protocol. We'll work with you to decide which natural area to monitor and give you a map of that site highlighting where the bumblebee habitat is. If necessary, we are glad to conduct a site visit with you. We are asking our volunteers to do what we call incidental surveys. So basically just try to record as many bees as you can when you're out monitoring. We ask that monitors conduct 6 incidental surveys at their select park from May through October, so about once a month. If you are able to and want to conduct more surveys, that's wonderful, but if not, that's just fine too. 6 will contribute a good amount of information about the bees in that park and will hopefully work within the confines of your schedule. After you collect the data in the field, you upload it to the B3 portal. From there, the B3 administrators verify your observations, and at the end of the season, send us the bumblebee data they've received for Milwaukee County Parks. So there's no need for you to submit it more than once. For instructions on how to upload data into the B3 portal, please see the separate video resource. We have parks located all across the county that can be surveyed. We'll work with you as individual volunteers to determine which park works best for you to monitor throughout the season. We encourage you to monitor with a partner, because you will likely collect better data and it will keep things a little less lonely than surveying by yourself. We'll provide you with a map of your park that will show you the areas with the best floral resources for bees to visit, and that map will provide you with parking locations as well. If the park you choose doesn't have obvious boundaries, for instance, it might be a specific section within a parkway, we can do a site visit with you as necessary. The equipment for this monitoring program is minimal. You will need a camera, either digital or the one on your smartphone. You may choose to use a lens attachment to boost the quality of your images, but this isn't necessary. At a minimum, you will need at least an 8-megapixel camera to get good enough detail of the bees. You will also need access to the internet to upload your photos to B3. And finally, you'll need the B3 Field Guide to Wisconsin bumblebees, pictured to the right, which Milwaukee County Parks will provide for you. When you're out in the field, we want you to be thinking safety first. We recommend wearing long pants, and you may want to bring sunscreen, bug spray, or water. Beware of extreme weather conditions like the excessive heat and humidity of summer. If it's above 90 degrees, I wouldn't even bother going out to survey any bees, because it's likely even too hot for them. Take caution around nests, as the bees may be more inclined to take drastic measures to keep their colony safe. Before jumping into the details of monitoring protocol, let's begin with a brief overview of bumblebee biology and their life cycle. Bumblebees are social insects that form annual colonies lasting only a single year, unlike honeybee colonies, which can have the same queen for multiple years. A bumblebee queen founds a colony and proceeds to produce females, the workers, males, the drones, and queens for the following season. Bumblebees are beautifully designed for pollination. Their big, hairy bodies get coated in pollen when they visit a flower, which they then carry to the next flower. Some of the pollen on the bee is transferred to the stigma of the second flower, pollinating it if the flowers are the same species. Their large size and hairy bodies also allows them to be active earlier and later in the day during cooler periods. And if they need a bit of a boost, they can vibrate their flight muscles to warm themselves up to a high enough temperature for them to fly. Bumblebees can also use their powerful flight muscles in a process called buzz pollination, in which they rapidly vibrate those flight muscles to loosen pollen from certain flowers that hold on extra tight to this floral resource. They are able to shake it loose, granting them pollen that other species aren't able to access. Worker bumblebees also have a special adaptation on their hind legs called pollen baskets, which they use to store pollen to transport back to the nest. The drawing to the right shows the basic structure of a bumblebee nest, quite distinct from those built by honeybees. Instead of hexagonal honeycombs, bumblebees construct groupings of more oval-shaped pots. To the left is a basic diagram of a bumblebee life cycle. A queen emerges from hibernation in spring, in April or May for Wisconsin, and finds a nest. She creates wax pots to hold nectar and pollen, and then she lays and incubates her eggs in them. This first brood are all female and will become the worker bees. When her daughters emerge as adults, they take over foraging and other duties. The queen remains in the nest, producing more broods of female workers. At some point in the summer, she begins to produce new queens and male bees who leave to find mates. Newly mated queens overwinter in places such as small animal burrows or rotting logs. With the exception of the newly emerged queens, the rest of the bees will die before the end of the season. So what do bumblebees need? Bumblebees need a water source to drink from, and of course they need abundant floral resources throughout the season, with an overlapping bloom time of flowers that provide both protein-rich pollen and sugar-rich nectar. Bumblebees need nesting habitat, which is often underground like in an abandoned rodent burrow, but can also be above ground, like in a clump of grass or between paving stones. At the end of the season, queens need overwintering habitat such as downed logs, leaf litter, or clumps of unmowed grass to ensure their survival until the next season. In Wisconsin, bumblebees are active from April to early October, but certain species emerge earlier in the spring than others, and some persist longer in the fall. Naturally, when seeking out bumblebees, you'll want to try nice, dense patches of blooming flowers. Don't forget to look close to the ground for nests. When queens emerge in spring, they will be looking for suitable nesting habitat. You'll see them flying low to the ground looking for potential nests, landing repeatedly to inspect each site. You might want to look up a little higher in the trees too, because bumblebees will visit the blossoms of species such as apple and cherry. When searching for bumblebees, remember to use your ears. You can often hear that low-pitched droning sound of a bumblebee in flight, or the faster, higher-pitched sound of buzz pollination. This can be especially helpful if the bee is obscured by thick vegetation. Mid-morning to mid-afternoon is generally a good time to go searching for bumblebees. Temperature-wise, between 60 and 85 degrees is a good benchmark. You can see them outside this temperature range, though. And keep in mind it may be easier to photograph them when it's cooler because they'll be a bit more sluggish. During summer weather, you'll want to avoid surveying during the hottest hours of the day if temperatures reach into the 90s. On gusty days, bumblebees may still be out foraging, but it'll be a challenge to photograph them. And naturally, avoid monitoring for bees when it's raining. There are some flowers beloved by all bumblebee species, such as wild bergamot, pictured at the top left. But when there is a good variety of flowers for bees to be choosy, you may see some specialization of flowers visited. Preference may be based on bumblebee tongue length, flower shape, or the sugar content of the flower's nectar, among other factors. If you're interested, visit the B3 website to see species-specific lists of nectar plants each bee will visit. Now let's get down to more of the specifics of monitoring protocol. Getting good photos of the bees is a skill that's developed over time. Try not to get discouraged if you can't get clear close-ups of the bees at first, or for a while. You're not alone. It takes practice and patience to know what works best when photographing bees. Don't be afraid to get close to the bees you're photographing. Bumblebees are pretty docile, and you are extremely unlikely to get stung. If you are getting too close, the bee will often warn you by lifting one of its middle legs if it's perched, or by flying aggressively back and forth in front of you. These are signs for you to back off and let the bee do its thing. In between different bees, you'll want to take a spacer photo so you don't confuse different bees when you are going back through your images later. This spacer photo could be of your hand, your field guide, or whatever else you like. You may choose to record a video instead of taking individual photos, and later on extract the individual photos from that video. To get an accurate species ID, you'll need to try to capture the bee from 3 angles: a view of the head, the side, and the back. This last one ideally with the wings open. It's understandable if you can't get all 3 shots of a bee like this. They're not always willing to cooperate. Just try to get what you can. It may be enough to ID the bee from only 1 or 2 photographs. Don't worry about accurately IDing all bees in the field. You will often need to review your photos later to make a proper ID. Once you've taken your photos, you'll want to sort them for the best images to upload. You'll start by identifying the visually distinct looking bees, or morphs, in each photo. Morphs can be based on color pattern, size, number of abdominal segments, or the presence or absence of pollen baskets. For more on distinguishing morphs and identifying bumblebee species, please see the separate video on Bumblebee ID. After you've determined all the distinct morphs, choose the clearest photos. Then center the bee and crop the photos. You may do this with photo editing software on your phone, camera, or computer. When you've done this, try to upload 3 photos total, 1 each of the head, side, and back of the bee. If you need to, you can upload between 1 and 5 photos. If your photos are larger than 1 megabyte, you'll need to crop them further to be able to upload them. And if you need any help figuring out how to crop photos or extract them from a video, a Google search should be able to show you a few simple ways to do so. 11 of Wisconsin's 20 bumblebee species have a special conservation status. The rusty-patched bumblebee is listed as federally endangered. We have 7 species listed as state special concern by the Wisconsin DNR, and 3 of our cuckoo bumblebees are designated species with information needs. As of 2019, in Milwaukee County parks, we have found 10 of Wisconsin's 20 bumblebee species. The 4 most abundant are the common eastern, red-belted, brown-belted, and 2-spotted. Also found in our park system is the rusty patch, yellow, half-black, black and gold, and lemon cuckoo. And we had a single observation of the northern amber in 2018. We are hoping to increase the number of species documented in our park system. Some potential species include the American and confusing bumblebees, as well as some additional cuckoo species besides the lemon cuckoo. Once again, we encourage you to participate in the in-person orientation for Milwaukee County Parks. We will go through the information presented here in more depth, as well as conduct a practice surveying session outside. You may choose to attend the B3 orientation as well. Join us for our bumblebee field trips twice a month throughout the season. Bring your camera and join staff and other volunteer monitors as we survey various Milwaukee County parks for bumblebees. And finally, reach out to us. If you have any questions or would like to know more about the Milwaukee County Parks Bumblebee Monitoring Program, please contact us at the email address seen here. And happy surveying, fellow bumblebee enthusiasts!